So we get to start out sitting down, unlike the other speakers. And as I was contemplating this, and I have a degree in journalism, I really wanted to go, Oprah, Barbara Walters. So tell me, Ravi. But I'll try and keep it focused on the subject at hand.
Sounds good.
And so, as Ravi and I were talking in advance and in preparation for this session, I had a good understanding of the story from Comcast. And then as I was listening to the speakers this morning, right, you're going to hear some of those common themes that were discussed this morning. So I think it'll be a good afternoon wrap up. But first of all, Ravi, from Colleen's introduction, any other tidbits about your background or your responsibilities that I think would be good to share?
Great. Kathy, thank you very much for this, and it's great to be here. Very excited. I can recognize some faces here, so good to see you all. So I run marketing strategy and planning for Comcast residential side of the business. And I come from a very analytical background. So my bachelor's degree was in math, applied math and stats. And believe me, when I was in grad school, I would never tell anybody that was my major. It was not a cool thing to do that. But everything changed by the time, I think it was 2009, when New York Times ran an article that said data scientist was the sexiest profession to be in. And guess what? I was telling everybody I have a bachelor's in math, my graduate degree was in operations research, and it was all great. But it also helped, I think, on the professional side of the equation, because we started getting invitations to be at the seat of the table with some very senior executives and part of the planning process. And that helped a lot from professionally from my career standpoint, but also provided a lot of opportunities to be impactful and be part of the transformation across various clients. And when I was at Ogilvy & Mather, IBM was one of our key clients, and I know a lot of folks there. It's been a very interesting transition, all the way from very data heavy to application oriented state that we are currently in from an analytics standpoint. So that's my story, other than what I currently do.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting for those of us who've been in this field for a while, right, to see the transition that some of the other speakers have talked about, right, from being kind of hidden deep in the bowels of the organization, churning through data and, running through green bar reports to now, to your point, Ravi, having a seat at the table. And I know, we talked about how Comcast really took that to heart, right, and has been on a multi-year journey to really integrate the role of data and analytics into the day-to-day decision-making. Can you tell us a little bit about what drove that transformation and how it's manifested itself there?
Sure. So we just announced our Q1 earnings, and the results are just some of the best that we have reported in more than a decade. We grew our customer relationship net adds by about 300,000, up 10% year over year. Our video business, which had been on a decline for more than over a decade, actually added subscribers for the first time, and we topped that with another fast start for 2017. Our HSD, the internet side of the business, continues to grow because of the need for data, and I think we're all in some way or fashion impacted by the trend that is driving the overall digital economy. But we were not where we are today literally 5 years ago when I showed up here. We were losing about 400,000 to 500,000 video customers on an annual basis, which was just not sustainable from a business standpoint, because that's our largest revenue generator. So the company very quickly realized that we were not on a path of sustainable growth and had to change. And obviously, customer experience, customer satisfaction scores were at an all-time low, and it was obvious that we had to improve those, because good customer service equates good business. So the transformation essentially started before I joined, but the foundation building blocks essentially involved bringing disparate data sources and platforms into one place. And a little bit of background for you to know about the industry in general is it grew by consolidation. So sometimes there were entities literally at a county level where somebody decided to buy a franchise, make an agreement with the county. So there was a billing system at that level. There was a customer database. There was pricing, packaging, service, all at that level. And as the industry kind of grew together through mergers, these systems never really integrated. So that resulted in an extremely suboptimal experience for the customer across all the way from acquisition to customer retention. And as Comcast got to scale and had the resources to bring it all together, it was a multi-year journey, and I believe Teradata has been a key part of some of those aspects of the journey. What it enabled was a single uniform platform of customer data and insights in one place that actually enabled the company to start actioning against those. So that was the main reason why the company has transformed, and it has been a long journey, and we're just at the beginning from the long road ahead from a customer service improvement perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about all of those companies that were purchased and how the industry grew by consolidation. And I know when I was at Nationwide, it had acquired a number of different companies and operated them almost as independent entities. I don't know. In my experience, I've seen, if you think about the world of M&A, companies do a really great job with the A part, but maybe not so much with the M, right? And then, and then we're the ones who are left to pay the price of that. And I mean, even something as simple as counting customers, right? Can be a challenge because, to some of the earlier discussion about what is the definition of a customer, right? How many products does a customer own? What are the definitions of products? I mean, that's a lot of hard work. Was that part of that transformation you're describing?
Oh, completely. So when I started, I remember talking to our field partners and just asking how we did with a certain customer segment, and the answer we got were 3 different answers in terms of how they measured and how they accounted for some of those dimensions. So one of the first things we did as a team, as a company, has been to kind of standardize. Sometimes people underestimate the power of simple things, and it's just simple things like bringing people on the same page in terms of how we measure marketing effectiveness, how we measure sales productivity, how we measure market share, how do we categorize customer segments into common themes. Those are fundamental to building a transformative marketing and sales strategy. So that was a really big part of the overall transformation.
Yeah, I mean, I think skipping some of that early hard work and getting into the really cool analytics and math stuff can be done at peril, right? I mean, one of my axioms is, the quality of your analytics is directly proportional to the quality of your data,
Correct.
right? And being able to right size and move through that in an iterative way is really important.
And we're still, I think, in our phase 1 of the transformation. We're starting to pick up pace as we go through our integration with all the different systems. And it's going to be something that we'll have to leverage and make it actionable for our frontline employees.
So to that point of making it actionable for frontline, I know Comcast has a big focus on NPS. That's a key metric. And Zach from EA this morning talked about that's a key metric for EA as well. I think industries where you have an intangible product, right? Customers' perceptions of how they interact with that product is such a big part of retention for them. Can you talk a little bit about the role that customer analytics plays in helping Comcast take action on NPS?
Sure. So customer experience to me is beyond just a sales call or a brand image. It's really about the whole, what does a product or service do, all the way from your daily needs to habits, and how does it actually help you there. What it meant for us, and this was a big topic at the Marketing Science Institute's conference as well, where Charlie Heron, who heads our customer experience initiative, spoke. The company has put a significant amount of OpEx and CapEx behind this initiative. It's to the tune of $300 to $400 million annually. We are in year 2 of our journey, and we're starting to see some really positive movement across certain areas that have traditionally been our pain points. But what it meant for us as a company were 3 things. 1, product. 2, marketing. How do we actually target, segment, and talk to our customers? And 3, obviously, is the customer service at the point of touch points, and doesn't necessarily mean a call center, but essentially could be any touch point, either when you're interacting with the product, or you're on our mobile app, or you're actually calling into a call center, walking into a retail store. So all of our efforts have been focused on all 3 of those dimensions. So let me describe in detail what it means. So on the product side of the equation, when I was a Comcast customer before I joined the company, I had the set-top box that a technician would come in, install, and that set-top box would stayed with me all through until I moved. And when I moved, I would go return the equipment, and there was no change in the experience. It was one interface. And so the company realized, as Netflix, Apple, and others have started moving into our space, that that experience and that capability was not enough for us to compete effectively. So we were one of the first companies to have the foresight to actually invest in a cloud-based interface and set-top box that took a lot of investment in CapEx, impacted our stock price quite a bit in late 2000s, because we were making all those right investments. And what came out of it was what we now call as X1 operating system and X1 set-top box. And arguably, it is by far one of the best interfaces that you would, if any of you have it. It's just so user friendly, and more importantly, its technology is all cloud-based. So we generally have, I guess the frequency with which we used to update customers' set-top boxes were once every 4 or 5 years. And here we are with the new box. We are updating the set-top box and its capabilities almost on a daily basis. So that's just a phenomenal shift in terms of our response and our capability to adjust to customers' needs. But more importantly, since we're talking about data and analytics here, it helped bring all of the data into one platform. And as a result of which, we actually could, in real time, know what are the customers' interactions. So how are they interacting with the product? What are the main features that they use? What are the pain points? What programmatic features do they consume the most? And that data trove is by far one of the largest media consumption databases that exist anywhere in the industry. So that enabled us to optimize the products, has enhanced our innovation cycle by leaps and bounds, wherein we have launched a new product every few months. We just launched a new capability called X5. So if you actually use internet in homes is a commodity, and people don't, other than setting up your wireless password, don't really understand how people are consuming and how. So that product has just been launched, so you can actually control your internet, the most valuable commodity in the house. If you ask my 8-year-old son if there is no Wi-Fi, there's no way he's going to be happy not playing some of his games from EA. So, so it's become a key driver. So the product side and the marketing side, it's a natural extension. We brought all of the data sets into one place, so we know, and we have an initiative called Customer Timeline. So what it does is, any given day, literally I can log in this afternoon, and I would know how many direct mail letters did we send a customer, how many emails we sent them, with what kind of message, how many truck rolls or how many calls did we receive from that customer, and what's the context of it, and what's the associated NPS, and we will talk about NPS in a second. And think about that from a marketing standpoint. If I know a customer has called in and asked for information on a product, or has gone onto our website and has clicked on one of the offers that we have out there, we know that their likelihood to convert is higher. So we prioritize those decision points and those touch points to go talk to them within a short period of time. So that obviously cuts down and our cost of sending out direct mails and other non-relevant messages, and drives conversion higher. We do that on the website as well. Then the flip side of the equation is somebody has had a reliability issue yesterday, and I don't want to go talk to them today at, hey, do you want to upgrade our product to another product? That's just not going to work. It's an NPS draining communication. So how do you eliminate low value communications and messages, and how do you actually enhance high value, high NPS communications is a big deal. So third is customer service, and I know we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah. So to that point of managing those messages, and we've heard a lot about timing and context today. How does Comcast manage that process of that complexity of making sure that if I have had reliability issues, that I don't get a promotional message that would seem irrelevant at best and irritating at worst?
Right, and we haven't completely solved that yet. We're in the beginning stages of that transformation. It involves two things. One is awareness, right, and the data. We need to make sure that all of the relevant stakeholders, all the way from marketing to sales channels, the reps who are actually taking these calls, being aware of the fact that this insight is available to them and empowering them to act accordingly. I think that's number one. Charlie and the entire organization is focused on getting that change management process in place to make sure that we do that. Then the second part is actionability. What do we do then? I mean, we have to empower our sales reps who are actually talking to these customers in terms of what are the options that they have. And it all comes down to systems, data, and heuristics, and business rules that we write to make sure that we're not doing something that's suboptimal. So those two aspects are big change management initiatives, and we have launched all of these capability in one region within the footprint. And Charlie was recently mentioning that just in one region, we took 347 years worth of waiting time, whatever it is, waiting for a rep to come in, or waiting for a phone call from a reliability issue care center. So we took all of that wait time out of the system, and we've seen the highest representative satisfaction scores. We have had the highest first call resolution, which is when there is an issue, you call and then it gets resolved first. And going back to the topic of the conversation, data analysis and how we actually use that to drive decisions and empower our frontline employees has been front and center of this transformation.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've heard a lot today about the role of change management in realizing value from data and analytics, right? I mean, bottom line is whether it's your customer or it's the executive who needs to change how they make decisions, you're dealing with human beings, right? And so, you've got to identify the effective ways to influence that behavior. And I think too often in data and analytics, we underestimate the internal work that it takes to do that. Hillary was talking about the whisper campaigns, right? Of, here's what we're seeing, right? You just, you've got to be creative and understand your organization and the culture and the analytic maturity level to really be able to make progress there. And so, talking about that, what advice would you give to someone who is trying to get their organization to better utilize customer analytics? As you've talked, right? I mean, this was transformative, and seeing like the leadership of the company was making big bets on what the analytics was saying they needed to do, and now it's infused out into how products are developed, how the marketing is managed, how the customer experience is managed. I mean, you've made a great deal of progress, and oh, by the way, added 300,000 net new subscribers in the era of cord cutters, right? I mean, let's not miss that point. So
That's right.
it's been pretty significant. What advice would you give to somebody who's following behind you in that journey?
Sure. It's a very interesting question, something that we as an organization grapple with on a daily basis, right? It's coming from a data analyst background. That was my first job, senior analyst at Capital One. Sometimes data analysis is very heavy on the data, all of the complexity that comes along with it. The key is having moved on from that kind of role to where I am actually the conduit between a data organization and an execution organization. Two things that come to my mind. One is trust and credibility. You have to build the trust and credibility with the organization and with the partners who are actually in the process of using the data and insights that you generate. And that takes time. That takes patience. That takes perseverance on everyone's part to make sure that we build that. Then the second and more important part, as I think about the composition of how my team and my capabilities have evolved over a period of time, is storytelling. I mean, it's very easy to put reams and reams of data in front of people, but you have to take the time to distill it into simple bite-sized insights. And it's more true for a company like ours, where majority of the customer interactions are actually happening at the customer sales rep or in a retail store or a .com level. You have to keep it simple so that these channels can actually execute. We keep hearing this word omni-channel quite a bit. The reason why it's so hard to make it real or make it work well is most of these channels and the people who actually are part of the channels don't talk to each other and don't understand some of the different dynamics that exist within each of them. And it's very important, I think, to convey what those insights are in a simple, bite-sized manner, build a solid case, and get the buy-in. And buy-in sometimes is not easy. You have to keep at it with good insights, of course, but you have to keep on working to get the change management through.
Yeah, I do think oftentimes I'll observe folks in an analytic role, who are very, very logical, right, and trust the data and know all the work that went into it, and they'll present a very great story to an executive, and the executive doesn't immediately take action on it, and it becomes demoralizing or frustrating for the analyst, right? And I think, to your point, that perseverance, right, of understanding change takes time, and working across and finding the right avenue to drive that change forward is really key to realize value from that. So we have some questions here, and it's interesting. Right now, the top two questions play off of them. The top one talks about Comcast having a monopoly in certain markets. And then the other one talks about addressing generational shifts of cord cutting and Netflix Showtime-only people, right? And so it's interesting how the perspective of your industry changes over time, right? And we've seen that in a number of industries, right? When with the SiriusXM merger, right? Originally, the FTC looked at that as they can't merge because it's satellite radio, and then they restated their case of our competitive set is broader than just satellite radio providers. And so, thinking about Comcast, what do you consider as your industry, right? And do you see any shifts coming within the industry that are going to cause you to continuously have to make some of these organizational big bets like you described earlier?
Sure. So first, obviously on the industry side, it's a very capital-intensive industry. If you think about the amount of capital that we invest in putting the plant out, getting all the lines out, it runs into billions and billions of dollars every year. So obviously the barrier of entry is high, which is why the perception is there is not enough competition. But if you think about the fact that I was saying at the beginning of the conversation, we were losing 400,000 to 500,000 video customers on an annual basis. And that's as a result of a couple of things, and it talks about the generational shift. OTT, over-the-top providers like Netflix, you have Hulu and Amazon Prime now coming in. So we have a lot of competition coming our way that is changing the nature of the industry from being a distribution-heavy focused company into something that is more at the intersection of media and technology. And it forces, and I think it's a good thing in the sense that it forces the company to change its mindset from what we used to be about 10 years ago to versus where we need to be in the next 10. So the company has invested quite a bit in segmentation, in making sure that we have the right relevant products for each of those segments. So if you are a millennial who's who only has a propensity to buy high-speed internet but actually consume all of our video through over-the-top solutions, then we have to cater to that. Otherwise, we will lose the business. And that's exactly how the company has evolved. Similarly, if as folks, some of the folks in the room graduate from college, move into an apartment complex, move into a home, eventually have kids, the whole life cycle, it is different need states. And we have to be there at each and every point in time to make sure that we are capturing demand in there. Otherwise, the business will not stay relevant. And the company has recognized that, and if you see the products like X1, it's cloud-based. And we just announced Xfinity Instant TV, where you actually don't need a set-top box anymore to certain packages, and you could actually get a high-speed internet connection, just stream live to whatever TV you want, and it just makes the whole experience easy because you don't need a technician coming in and running wires all through the home. So those are all the things that the company has recognized and into how it's all evolving. It's a hard transition. I mean, there is no doubt. It's been hard, especially with the kind of legacy that the company has had for a while to where we are today, which is already bearing fruit. One of the reasons why we bucked the trend, all of our peers and competitors actually lost customers and relationships in Q1, and we were the only ones who bucked the trend, primarily because we recognized the need to be there where the customers want us to be and drive churn down. And churn is down because of improving customer experience, improving product experience, and better targeting.
So would you say in that product experience and customer experience, I mean, what role did analytics play in that, and how do you see that evolving over time?
So, and again, as I said, analytics has been front and center of all of these initiatives. Without us understanding the fact that the market is moving, which required some very forward-looking and an understanding of the consumer trends. If we didn't realize where market would be 10 years ago, we wouldn't be ready with our response with X1. We wouldn't be ready with our high-speed internet, one of the fastest that's out there. We wouldn't be ready with the Wi-Fi, in-home Wi-Fi that enables all of the media consumption. And so analytics played a role in obviously painting a picture as to where the broader customer and media landscape is moving. That's one. And second, so that obviously contributed to the product side of the equation. From a marketing side of the equation, we have a huge initiative currently underway to build a CRM kind of a system that brings together all of our customer touch points, like I said, with customer timeline, but there are several other touch points that our customers have with our products. So we're bringing all of that together to build a smart decisioning system that will enable us to be more relevant, be more responsive whenever an issue arises, and be able to solve that issue in a fast and responsive manner. And I think once we do those three things, the rest all, I think the customers will start seeing the value that the company brings to the table and how it enables daily consumption and habits and how it enables the needs of everyone in the home.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So it is to the omni-channel discussion, right? That need to interact consistently across channels with a level of knowledge that of the customer and challenges large organizations have with that. To your earlier discussion, that the leaders in one group may not talk to align with the leaders in another. The metrics and measures that are used for success in one channel can be very different from those in another. And so as you talk about this system and this technology, we've also talked this morning about the changes that need to happen with people and process to really realize value from that technology. Do you have any look into the future and how things might be different once the system is up and running?
I think we will be more timely, more responsive, and more relevant to our customer base and across all of our marketing, customer service, and product-related aspects. I think it's a future that we are all working very hard towards, and the company is extremely focused on the transformation.
And I'm assuming lots of analytics and models is going to drive that relevance.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. There are quite a lot of models, and we have folks in the audience who actually do build those models. So.
Yeah. Good.
Right.
Okay. Well, looks like we're out of time. Ravi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really good.
Thanks.